Should you invest in the S&P 500? This is a topic that, as a new investor, I have been flip-flopping on for the past month. On one hand, the growth of the S&P 500 has been incredibly promising and enticing to me as a new investor. However, I've also noticed that at the moment, the S&P 500 is basically just the S&P 5. Because 95 to 98% of it is made up of the five big tech companies in the US. And so initially that kind of put me off a little bit from the S&P 500 because, as I explained in my Is Tech a Safe Investment video earlier on, I am skeptical on the future of tech and tech stocks in general. And so I was thinking, do I really want to put in half of my portfolio into effectively five tech stocks that could tank if God smashes down his mighty fist onto these Luciferian Satanists? But then I had another thought about it, and I was thinking, well, actually, the S&P 500, it's basically just an index of the best performing American companies at whatever time you're looking at. And obviously, in 2024, the best performing American companies are the Luciferian big tech companies. However, when Trump wins, because let's be real here, Trump is going to win. Everyone in America knows it. All the finance bros know it. Everyone knows Trump is going to win the next election. When Trump wins, if the big five tech companies do end up crashing or having some kind of massive meltdown for whatever reason, I think Trump will be able to still build the S&P 500 back up because it will then just move from being the S&P 5 with five tech companies taking charge to the ones at the bottom of the S&P 500 potentially taking a bigger slice of the pie and moving the S&P 500 away from technology into different industries. And so I think really with the S&P 500, I've had a good think about this. And I think with the S&P 500, there's very little ways you can lose unless America itself falls to its knees. And there's a lot of pessimists out there who might say, well, America is on the brink of civil war. It's looking like a very bad country right now. And, to some extent, they are correct. However, I do believe in America myself. I think it is the land that God supports, and that might sound a bit, Alabama Bible bashing, but I do think that is the case, that it is the country God is most favourable towards at the moment. And it's simply because, as far as I can see, it's currently the only based country on the planet. I mean, think about every other continent for a moment. What's going on over here in Europe? In Europe at the moment, we've got despots and dictatorships going on, riots happening all over the place. America has had its fair share of riots, yes, but I think Europe is probably in for a much more ruder awakening than America possibly is. If we go over to Africa, that place is just a dump, and it's always going to be a dump. China and the Far East, that's always going to be a dump. Japan is promising, and I am a big weeaboo myself, so I do love myself a little bit of Japanese culture, and they do certainly know their beauty aesthetics over there in Japan. However, you can't deny they are an aging population. Nobody there is having sex, so maybe don't put your faith in that country. And South America, I mean, we may as well just ignore South America completely. The whole place is an absolute dumpster fire. It makes Africa look civilized. And Canada is basically so irrelevant that most people will forget about it. So with all that in mind, really, America seems to be looking like where it's at. And as an investor, if I want to take the mentality of, well, beyond numbers, what do I want to support myself monetarily? I want to support America. I think what Trump's doing is absolutely phenomenal. I think the energy that he's got behind him and the belief he has in the free markets, but also in, not allowing those markets to become monopolies and corrupted, I think that really is the way we need to be going in this world. And so I've alleviated my worries about the S&P 500, and I'm going to stick to my plan. My original plan that I came up with over a month ago when I started investing was that in a year's time, I would have about 15k saved up, and I can chuck about 15k into the S&P 500 on my ISA investment account, so that's all tax free. And yeah, that's now going to be the plan that I'm going to stick with. And I would say if you've got some cash lying around and you're already an investor, I would say go for the S&P 500. If you're a beginner and you're making your first investment purchase, I would probably not go for this. I'd do what I did and go for a ready-made investment, something that's basically been pre-done for you. I did Barclays ready-made investment for that, but obviously you don't want to do mutual funds forever going forward, because if you put all of your money into mutual funds, those fees are just going to get extremely silly and annoying. So my next step, going from a baby's first investment to baby's second investment, I think next year for me is going to be the S&P 500. I think the future is looking bright for the S&P 500 no matter which way you cut it. And I wish America all the best.